welcome to the Esmeric Art Studio. Today's project is going to be a cover of a cookbook, and I'm doing this cookbook for our youngest daughter's friend who is getting married. Shall we get started? For the first part of the project, we are going to need the book. So this is a canvas book. And I was looking for one with lines in, but unfortunately this one don't have lines in, so let's hope she can write straight. I've printed some spaghetti sauce splashes onto a very fine sort of, I don't know what paper it is, like a handmade kind of store-bought paper. And we're going to need some matte gel, where I'm going to use the matte gel to adhere it to the cover. And then we're going to need, I've cut a stencil with It's Getting Hot in here, and I'm going to use the folk art chalk paint just to stencil these words on. And I've got a little stencil brush for that. So for the second part of our project, which is going to be the metal embossing part, we are going to need some metal tape, and that is just to adhere. Again, I've cut a stencil from my silhouette, just the wording that I would like to have on there. So we're going to need the tape to adhere that to our pewter. We're going to need our essential tools as always, which is going to be the Teflon tip tools, a stylus, our paper stamps, as well as I'm definitely going to do faux patina on this one. So the water-based permanent markers, as well as the paper towel that goes with that part of the project, Sookwang tape to adhere everything, and of course our work surfaces that we always need. I'm going to start by adding a thin layer of the matte gel to the cover of the book, and I'm going to try and work fast. Oh, what is that now? It's always stuff here. And I'm going to try and work fast to get the whole cover covered. And I'm making sure that I get right up until the edge of the book. And then once that is done, I'm going to place the paper down and make sure it goes down well. And the reason why I did the spaghetti sauce splashes is when Virginie's friend came to visit, the length of her visit was always depending on what I cooked. And if I was cooking spaghetti for that evening, Miranda would always stay until after dinner. If it was something else on the menu, nope. It's okay, she can go home before dinner. So let me put it this way, it was quite an easy decision to make for me to, I'm going to do a cookbook and I'm going to write my recipe, my spaghetti bolognese recipe in there for her. So unfortunately, when it went through the printer, it picked up some of the black ink. Why, I don't know, but I've tried a new set and it did exactly the same. So once this is down, it looks like it looks good. I'm going to add another thin layer over top, and this is on the front. I'm going to do exactly the same with the back once the front has set and dry. So now this looks like old worldish old cookbook full of the splatters, although I think the pewter might cover quite a bit of it. So I'm just adding a thin layer to seal this. And if you don't have matte gel, you can also use a glass smell or a semi-gloss, but oops, there the ink runs. But I just prefer working with a matte gel, and if you don't have matte gel, you can also use Mod Podge for this. It will do or work exactly the same. So I'm going to try not to go too much over there. And if this happens, I'm going to try and push the color sort of almost back into the splats that is here, the food splatters or the sauce splatters. Okay, so I'm going to dry this, and once it's dry, I'm also going to try and tear off as much on the side as what I can, and then we can move on to the next. I did both the front and the back, and then looking at this was originally the front and this the back, but I actually like this one more, so I'm going to change my mind and I'm going to use this as the front. And I'm just going to space this more or less to see where I, oops, there goes my dryer, where I would like it to be. And if I can find my, oh, here's my piece of pewter, and then so the pewter will go, yeah, and so there will still be some of the splashes available. So I think that is going to be a good setting. My spacing top and bottom there is good. When I was drying, if you actually print this on a laser printer, you won't have issues with the paint that is running, or smudging I should say, but I just have a inkjet printer. And also when you do images, please make sure that it is copy free, or that you have access or permission to use it. So when it's copyright, please don't use it. Okay, so it's going, I'm going in, and we're gonna hope for the best. I think my stencil is supposed to be a little bit flimsy in the sense that it's not quite adhere. I should have actually, what you can do to make sure that your stencil stay down properly is you can add replaceable adhesive or repositional adhesive that you can get, that you can spray on it, and you would be able to use that, and then that way you can make sure it is staying in position and the small little parts doesn't lift up. That is what's actually happening here. But I always say everything is made with love, so, and the one that they're going to buy in the store has not been made with love, so, and it won't be so personalized either. I'm just lifting this up to see. Yeah, I think it's looking good. Yep, I'm not going to bother to go in anymore, so I'm removing my stencil. And what I'm going to do is later on I will just come in, and in the center of the G, the E and the O, I will paint with orange, or even highlight it with a little bit of white. I actually just noticed there could have been a little bit more, but you know what, it is going. I'm not going to fiddle with it any longer. I'm going to put this aside to dry and move on to our pewter. Once this is dry, we will seal everything. I've secured the stencil the best I could with the limited space that I have. And the next step is I'm just going to mark where the stencil is, and so that once we turn it around, I have an idea how to rub it. So I'm going to mark something of each letter. And of course you can go in and you can mark each and every one. It's all up to you. If you want to learn more about how to work with stencils, there is a video that I did specifically on how to do stencils, how to get two different looks with the same stencil, and I will link that video below this video in the description. Okay, so I'm nearly done here, and then the next step, once we have done this, I'm just going to do some squares here and there. The next step is we're going to turn it around. Oh, and when you mark it, work on a paper pad. The next step is we're going to turn it around and we're going to start using our paper stump, and we are going to push everything through. And that is why we are working on the back of the pewter now on a hard surface, and we're pushing it through with our paper stump. I just need my other paper stump. I'm just quickly going to get, oh, here it is. Because this one has, although it's thicker, it has a sharper point. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to push all the letters through, as well as the little squares that's here. And once that is done, we will move on to the next. Once you have done this, you can see on some of the points it did not really push through completely. So the next step that we're going to do to make sure that it gets in all the little corners there is we are going to use our Teflon tip tool, and we are working now from the back of the pewter, still on a hard surface, and we are really pushing it through. So you can use a finer tip one as well for this, but I'm just trying to get everything into the little corners. And I find specifically for that, especially when I work with words, that this little one is really good at doing that. As I said, you can also come in with your thin end and you can really push it up there. That is the way to do it. But for, yeah, mind you, you know what, I think I am going to do that. But let me first just finish with this one, and then I will move on to the thinner one. And I think you've heard me say this before, if you follow me, is, you know, it is the time and the effort that you put into a project that is what is going to show. So when it comes to the letters like the A, the and the O's and the B, you will see that there is little tabs. So I'm not going to refine around the tabs, because once I remove the stencil, I will push that line through to make it one continuous line. So again, I'm just quickly going to go all around, and I will be back with the next step once this is all done. There was quite a few places where I've actually slipped, but in the end we are going to fix that. So now I'm going to go back in, and now I'm going to use the sharper end of the or a Teflon tip tool with a sharper end. You can also use your stylus if you want to for this one, and I'm going to really push the pewter right up until the stencil. And once I have completed this step, I am just going to go back over, because you will notice it makes a little bit of a ridge there, and well, actually not too much on this one, but I'm just going to go back in with my paper stump, and I will sort of just flatten it out again, and that will give you a really nice look. I'm also going to be working on another project soon where I'm going to do lettering, because that was one of the things that was quite high on the list when I asked the newsletter subscribers which tutorials they would like to see. And so that, keep an eye out for that one. It is coming shortly, where you actually do all this lettering freehand with no stencil. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go outline with this, come back in with my paper stump, and I'll see you when that is all done. Sometimes feels, no matter how many times you try and you think you're ready, you will always find another one that hasn't gone right up until the edge of the stencil. So now once the stencil is removed, the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to try, well, not I'm going to try, I am going to do that. I'm going to remove all these little slips that I had, and to do that is I'm starting, and I'm using the plastic burnishing tool, and I'm going to work it from the away, and I'm going to work it in towards the letter. Personally, it just works better for me. And again, this one too, I'm working towards the letter, or the square, I should say. There's not even a letter inside. And yeah, there was quite a few boo-boos that I've made here. I think when you work fast as well, sometimes you slip. And so where is some more? There must be, oh, there you go. So that one can go there, and I'm pushing this one there. And just see how it goes, to which direction you are going to try and smooth it out. Oh, there's another one there. Now this one is going to work better towards the R. Okay. And yeah, I think I fixed all the ones there. So next is just with everything, you're just going to come in and smooth around or flatten around with your paper stump. And once we have done that, let me just start on this side here. And try not to flatten the words. Once we have flattened around with our paper stump, the next is we're going to come in with our Teflon tip tool, or you can use your stylus. It is whichever one you feel more comfortable with. And you are just going to outline or refine all the letters. And again, you can use your stylus too. It all depends which one you are preferring to work with. Personally, I really like refining with my Teflon tip tool. However, I have to admit there is some projects that I definitely would use my metal stylus when I do the refining. But for these lettering, I think the stylus is working perfectly. This is a good chance now. There you can see where the little tabs was. So when you have something like this, come in with your purple stylus and just smooth that out, the same almost as what we fixed the other ones. And you're going to flatten that around, and I'm just going to connect those lines. And when I come back to the front, now there is no more opening. And you have a solid one. And you're going to do exactly the same with the O's. You can use a Teflon tip tool as well for this, but I just find this is the way that works best for me, is coming in with the eraser side of my plastic burnishing tool, finishing it off, come in and smooth it out. And when you go back to the front, you can see, oh, I didn't flatten with my paper stump here yet. And one can feel when you haven't flattened with your paper stump, is as if things doesn't want to work so well. So yeah, and as I said, for me personally, I work a lot with my Teflon tip tool. However, there is times that I feel I definitely need this. I think I would just like to add something else here for a border. I'm not going to do anything on the side though, and I think I'm going to work with I was thinking of just doing a line, but I don't know. You know what, let me go with my first thoughts. So I'm just going to do a line. Let me just sketch one. So I think I'll go this side there. I don't want it to be straight, and I'll do one here. Well, it's almost straight, but it's not. And I'll do another one on this side. Okay, that one, okay, I think I'll go a little bit wonky there too. Okay, so I'm working on the back of the pewter on a soft surface, and I might just need a wider one. Where's that one? And I'm just going to draw a line or emboss the line. Whoops, and there I slip. And embossing, oh, I think I'm off camera here if I'm not mistaken. There's just never a happy medium. And this one, and I'm going to do the same on this. Now I'm turning around and I'm going to be working on my hard surface. First flattening around with my paper stump. And try not to flatten the line I've created. Try and come in between the two. Flattening it on both sides. I actually think I'm going to use, just to sort of get rid of that, I'm going to come in with my Teflon tip tool. And I'm going to work slowly, and I'm going to refine on both sides. So I'm just show you, and then I will turn it around and come back in the opposite direction and refine. So there where I have a slip, if I do, or when I do, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to come back on my hard surface, fix it, go back in with my Teflon tip tool and refine again. So this is the process that's going to happen next. The next thing I would like to do here is to add a background to the middle section. And so what I usually do is, for my signatures, is I would do a round one, and then I would do the little flowers go around. But for this one, although I am going to put a couple of my signature designs on here to fill the background, I think I also want to have some wooden spoons, a chef's hat, just because it is a cooking book or a recipe book. So I'm going to fill all of this in the back, and then once I have all my designs, I will connect everything. I've done a couple of the designs, and next I'm going to come in and at random shapes in between, I'm just going to start filling up the whole background, because this really gives a nice place for the patina or the faux patina, whichever one you are using, to really have a grip, or it gives it something to grip onto, which is going to be very nice. Okay, so as I said, I'm just going to fill up the whole background, and once that is done, I think we should be able to start with our patina and put the whole thing together. Because the design is right up until the edge there, it just looks weird for me, so I'm just going to do a whole lot of lines from that line out towards the end, just to add a little bit more texture or sort of round it off or finishing it off. And once that is done, as I've mentioned before, I think we can move on to the faux patina on this project. I was debating whether I'm going to add some beeswax to the lettering or not, and in the end I decided no, I'm rather going to do that. So I'm adding the Sookwang tape, and I'm doing this even before I'm going to start with the faux patina. So once I've got this done, then we will definitely move on to the faux patina. I think for the last couple of minutes I keep on saying, oh, we're going to move on to the faux patina, we're going to move on to the faux patina, but after this I think that will be the next step. As always with patina, or before you patina, just quickly clean your pewter just to make sure you get rid of all oils that has been on your fingers or still is on your fingers. And once you've done that, just give it a quick wipe to remove any traces of the alcohol. Although the alcohol does evaporate, I still like drying it. And the next is, as we always do, we are going to color this in with the water-based permanent marker, and then we are going to wipe it off in the same direction. Next, we are going to adhere this to the book, and I haven't sealed anything here yet. I will spray everything with a clear glass enamel, and because I've never worked with a sealant over the chalk paint, I've only just used a spray sealer, and I don't want it to, the letters to run, or the words to run, or the paint to run for the letters. So I'm just going to use this one for now, because as always my other one is always gone. I can never find it. Oh, there it is. So I'm just making sure I secure it. I go securely down. All around. And just take a Kleenex or a piece of cotton and sort of give your pewter a buff, because when you do this, not only are you giving it that buff or make it a little bit shiny, but you're also ensuring that the Sookwang tape is adhering to both the pewter on the one side as well as your substrate on the opposite side. Okay, so I think this looks good. And next step is I'm just going to come in and I'm going to use this with some, I was debating on using a different color to fill up the little holes, but in the end, because of the black, I've decided to go with white, because the other colors paint doesn't really show up. This paintbrush is not going to work. Let me just grab another one. Let me try this one. So it's a very fine one, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to make almost like a little bit of a sliver or a line in there to mimic the hole, or the opening, I should actually say, for the G and the E and the letters that is solid now. I know the white is like really wow in your face, but as I said, the other colors didn't really want to work well, or didn't really show up. So what I might do in the end is, once the white has dried, I might come in with almost a creamish brownish color and just touch that up so that it look, or even here on the sauce, to have it the sauce's color. You can put beautiful designs on here in the background. You don't necessarily have to do the splats, but Virginie, that's our youngest daughter, and myself were just thinking, because of Miranda really loving my spaghetti bolognese, that's why we wanted to go with that. And our cookbook is done. Take something like an ordinary book and turn it into something personal or a special gift to somebody. So we started with the spaghetti splashes just because of the spaghetti bolognese that she really loved. And I've also added a little bit of a cream color on top of the white. I don't know if you can pick it up, just to dampen the white. As well as I have used some vintage photo just to add to the spine of the book, and I've just used my finger for that, as well as around the edges. So next up is I'm going to write my spaghetti recipe in here. I don't really cook with a recipe, but I know more or less what I have in there. So I'm going to write this in here for Miranda, with just a little story about how that was, like I said in the beginning, determine how long she would visit, whether there was spaghetti for dinner or not. As always, thank you so much for spending time with me in the studio today. And always remember, the world of reality has its limits. The world of imagination is boundless.